We can finally get Nintendo characters in this Nintendo game again! Smash Ultimate is almost done with its initial Fighters Pass, and while we've known for a while that their goal with this pass was to introduce new third-party franchises that would be surprising and exciting to see in Smash, the future of what Smash DLC could have to offer is completely unknown right now. It could continue the same trend, I wouldn't be surprised if it did, but man, I have been so itching to get some Nintendo characters in this game again, and get a proper opportunity to talk about Nintendo characters again. I don't think getting first-party DLC characters is a guarantee, but in my mind, it jumped from like a 5% possibility to like 45%, and that's enough for me to make a video about it. While I am one of those of the opinion that Smash is at its best when it's a celebration of gaming as a whole, and not specifically Nintendo, Nintendo is one of the biggest parts of this medium, and continuing to ignore it for much longer is going to create this massive hole in the roster. So many incredible new and old characters missing out on their opportunity to join this crossover just because of the company that made them and the time they were relevant. So let's go through and remind ourselves of all of the incredibly likely first-party characters that we can, at least for now, reasonably anticipate maybe getting in. And I'll tell you, I was picky with this list. I didn't even include some of my personal most wanted like Paper Mario or Toad because I genuinely didn't think they had enough of a chance to talk about. But here I've got a list of 10 characters-ish, all of whom are gearing up at the starting line and could easily snatch up that invitation should Nintendo allow it. Let's not waste any more time and start off with... Of course I had to start with Waluigi. I can't believe we're to a point where it can be reasonably said that Waluigi might be the single most anticipated character to join Smash. When I talk to my non-Smash playing friends or even my non-video game playing friends, almost all of them say Waluigi is the one they want in. Some of them are even surprised when they find out he's not. He may not be my first choice for a Mario character, but I cannot deny the immense community support around this guy. Do people only like Waluigi because of memes? Yes, but there's nothing wrong with that. Putting Waluigi in Smash would make a gigantic amount of fans happy, and Nintendo knows it. They've acknowledged the want for Waluigi. If Smash is going to continue its trend of including huge fan favorites, I can't think of a bigger first party to go for than Waluigi. I give this man an 8 out of 10.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that I'll be giving every character an arbitrary score out of 10 for how likely I think they are relative to the other characters on the list.
Only thing that keeps him down is being an assist trophy. We don't know if assist trophies deconfirm, but we also don't know if assist trophies don't deconfirm. I personally hope assist trophies aren't a problem, but I can't deny the possibility that they might be. I could definitely see Sakurai being hung up on it. I don't personally want Waluigi that much, but a lot of other people do. So for those people, I hope their voices are heard. But you know what I do want? I want to beat Pikachu with a police baton. And if you don't want to do that too, then you just don't know what fun is. Astral Chain, man, I love this game. I think it is the most successful new first-party IP the Switch has had so far, being the only one so far to bring together both financial success and general acclaim, a pairing that all other new first-party IPs we've gotten for the Switch haven't been able to do yet. This guy would be crazy unique. Like I said, you could just beat all these cute animals with your baton. You know somehow Sakurai would incorporate being able to move and attack with your Legion independently. And a roster that's crawling closer and closer to 100 entrants, the Neuron Officer, as I typically call them, is a rare opportunity to include a character that is wholly unique. The naming is a little awkward, I like Neuron Officer. I've also seen people suggest Rookie or Howard, but stop calling them Akira, or at least explain to me why it makes sense to call them Akira. If you haven't played Astral Chain, this is not Akira Howard. Akira Howard is not the protagonist of Astral Chain. When you pick your gender at the beginning of the game, the opposite gender becomes Akira Howard, your twin sibling. And Akira has some of the powers and abilities that you do, but not nearly all of them. There's a ton of extra, really spoilery reasons why putting Akira into Smash over the protagonist would be really awkward, but if they really decided to put Akira in Smash simply because of the simplicity of the name, you would be missing out on a ton of incredible moveset potential. I guess they could just slap on the protagonist's abilities that Akira doesn't have on top of them, but at that point you're just playing as the protagonist, so once again, Akira doesn't make sense. I would love to see how Sakurai would execute this character. Maybe he doesn't have as much of a problem as I do with swapping the characters' names like that, but I've gotten way off track. I give the Neuron Officer a 6 out of 10, and that number would skew a couple points up or down if I had hard sales numbers on the game. If I had that, I could more accurately go off of how many people know about this character, and thus how valuable having them in Smash would be. But let's scoot over to another 2019 protagonist, Byleth. Man, I love Fire Emblem Three Houses. It was so surprising to me. I didn't like Awakening, I didn't like Fates, I didn't like Fire Emblem Warriors. I don't know why I decided to give this game a chance, but I did. I really enjoyed it, and Byleth would be an incredible addition to Smash. You take one look at this guy or girl and what do you see? Anime protagonist? Awesome. But better yet, they've got this really cool sword, and there's just something so satisfying about the idea of charging around the Smash battlefield hitting people with a sword. That's just so inherently cool, right? Better than that, Byleth has this ability called Divine Pulse. Now look at this. This allows them to go back in time and rethink their strategy or even parry an attack that would otherwise kill them. And I think it'd be really cool to represent this move in Smash by giving Byleth a down B counter. Now I know you're probably thinking that Byleth looks incredibly cool and original. You're probably thinking, how can a character get more awesome and cool and interesting and dynamic than this? Well, I saved the best part for last. Byleth has blue hair, and wait, they put him in the game already? 7 out of 10. I don't think Donkey Kong ever truly got the representation he deserved in Smash. This goes for way more than just the characters, but Ultimate made a lot of great steps in the right direction. But in my opinion, Donkey Kong's roster will always feel incomplete until we get Dixie Kong. Dixie Kong is a major player in Donkey Kong's best games. I think that Dixie, perhaps more than any other Nintendo female, has the legacy and the icon status to instantly earn a spot on this roster. I don't really have any funny jokes or witty commentary to make about Dixie. She's just a legend to put her in. But unfortunately, I gotta give Dixie a 5 out of 10. I just don't quite see the incentive on Nintendo's part to include her the same way I do a lot of these other characters. You'll also find the characters that I personally really want to see and I'm a lot harder on, so I can temper my own expectations. I don't want my fandom for any character to force me into making any wild, speculative statements on why they must be in Smash. Speaking of which, Isaac fans, you guys are insane! And I mean that in a really good way. Isaac comes from this really awkward period in Nintendo history where he's not quite old enough to be considered a retro icon the way a lot of other characters are, but he's also so old that he can't even be considered remotely modern or that marketable to include. There's a lot of characters that fall into this mold. Along with Isaac, you have the likes of Ray from Custom Robo or Chibi Robo. But somehow, you Golden Sun fans have managed to keep Isaac in the limelight. He is still talked about to such a degree and with such passion that he's really the only old character that I felt like was worth talking about on this list. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to scream loud enough to give Isaac the roster slot, and of course you also have the same assist trophy hurdle that Waluigi does, so even though I gotta stick Isaac with a 4 out of 10, know that I'm rooting for you guys. I'm also rooting for a new Zelda character, like I'm sure many of you are too. Similar to Donkey Kong, I don't think Zelda has ever quite gotten the representation it deserves, specifically in the character department. The list of iconic and lovable and interesting characters you could add from this franchise feels infinite. But unfortunately, I think Zelda has been stuck in this weird position where how do you prioritize one over the other? Skull Kid, Tingle, Impa, Tetra, all characters that I would love to see in this game. But especially when looking through the lens of modern Zelda, how on earth do you prioritize one or the other? It's just hard for me to wrap my head around picking a legacy Zelda character for DLC over someone that's either more modern or has a much more defined fanbase rooting for them. It's crazy to me that a guy from a GBA RPG from the makers of Mario Golf and Purple Mario that everyone used to despise is more likely than a character from arguably the most beloved and celebrated gaming series ever created. I give getting any Zelda character as DLC a 3 out of 10, but if Breath of the Wild 2 ends up giving us a really clear and obvious character choice for Smash, that number's gonna go way up. Alright, now we've gotten to my personal most wanted first party character in Smash. I'm clearly talking about Rex right now, but my most wanted character is really anyone from Xenoblade. And Rex feels like the clear choice to fill that role right now, right? Aside from being from one of the Switch's most celebrated games that managed to outperform Nintendo's expectations for it, and being from a game that Sakurai personally loves and we've seen what that can result in, I think Rex could potentially break the anime swordsman stigma that so many people have. Obviously his sword is incredibly unique, and that along with many of his other abilities would allow him to fight unique from any swordsman we've seen so far. But I think a problem with the anime swordsman in Smash that not a lot of people talk about is their complete lack of a personality. Seriously, like 2 of these JRPG boys have ever shown a hint of emotion inside of them. Rex absolutely carries a personality that can shine through his combat style. Now a lot of people might say Rex doesn't have a good personality, but not only do I disagree with that statement, but I think some personality is better than none. The biggest thing holding Rex back to me, besides already having him there as a Mii costume, is that I think he's getting slightly on the old side. I could definitely see Nintendo picking someone like the Neuron Officer or Byleth simply out of being more modern and relevant. I don't think developing DLC is as harsh to new characters as developing for base game was to Rex. I hope I'm wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if Smash Ultimate or maybe even Smash 6 is just gonna wait for the Xenoblade X2 or Xenoblade 3.
I don't know, man. Maybe like a 6? 6 feels right to me.
But I also gotta briefly touch on the other character from Xenoblade that people like to talk about. Elma, who's from Xenoblade Chronicles X, my favorite in the franchise, was a very common pick for base Smash Ultimate. And there is a weird lack of Xenoblade Chronicles X stuff in this game. Not including music from X should be an arrestable offense. I don't think Elma is impossible, especially if that Chronicles X port to Switch is as inevitable as it feels, but for right now it's hard to imagine them picking anyone but the most recent protagonist. Elma gets a 4 out of 10. Pokemon Sword and Shield has a spirit event, huh? Well, that certainly hurts the case for the Gen 8 Pokemon. I haven't played Sword and Shield, I don't intend to play Sword and Shield, so I don't know which Gen 8 Pokemon would be the pick for Smash, but it doesn't really matter. The appeal of including a new Pokemon from the latest generation is obvious. It's just a matter if that more corporate, cynical angle is where Nintendo wants to go with the future DLC. And the spirit event, while not deconfirming a Gen 8 Pokemon, certainly doesn't help their case. Maybe the gimmick with the Gen 8 Pokemon will be once you buy and install them, it deletes 60% of your character roster. Ha 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 ha, how about it, gamers? Did referencing that modern gaming controversy make me seem more relatable and in the know? Now we're on to the last character, or actually the last 3 characters, and I'm gonna let you guys know right off the top, I give these guys a 2 out of 10 chance of getting into Smash. But this video would feel incomplete if I didn't talk about them. Psylux, Porky, and Gygus. Why would any of these characters get into Smash? From where I'm standing right now, I don't really know, but their spirits are weirdly missing and we gotta wonder why. Were they saving Psylux for DLC when we find out he is a major player in Prime 4? Possibly. But not only is that just one of many possibilities, but who knows if they're even gonna have the chance to follow through with that with the development cycle that Prime 4's been going through. Could they be saving Porky for when we get Mother 3? I mean, maybe. I'm certainly down for Porky, I love Earthbound. But it just feels so weird to me. Porky doesn't really feel like DLC character material. I would actually sooner guess that Porky just gets re-added as a boss for some World of Light expansion or something. Gygus is one of my favorite villains in gaming history, but he just does not work as a playable character. I think he'd be a really cool assist trophy if you could somehow incorporate the idea that you can't even comprehend the attacks he's doing to you. But I believe that if they didn't just choose to neglect Gygus, they would probably be saving his spirit for whenever they reintroduce Porky. And like I said, Porky just doesn't feel right to me. If his spirit wasn't missing, I don't think he'd be in the conversation at all. All the skepticism is obviously why I gave these guys a 2 out of 10. I really don't buy the spirit theory at all, which means it's going to be incredibly hilarious to me when it turns out to be true when Psylux or Porky gets revealed. If you think I missed a first-party character with a legit shot to get into Ultimate through its DLC, let me know. I'm still not convinced that first-party is the direction they're going to take with the future DLC, but I'm hoping. And this video was a great outlet to let me be hyped about that idea all over again. Thank you so much for watching through to the end, and I'll see ya when I see ya.